Hello!
Hello!
We're Loops and Lapbars, and this is going to be a bit of a video, hopefully to give some advice to anybody and everybody who is planning on doing a trip to Europe. Just some of the experiences that we had and things that we learned and such like that along the way. Starting off right in there with what you need to do before you go. So for me, first thing that we did was obviously plan the route that we were doing. So as you've probably seen, we did Plopsaland, Bobbejaanland, Efteling, Toverland, Fantasialand, Wally Belgium, then back home. Now we went through all sorts of different iterations, didn't we, as to which way we were doing. We were going to go, Wally Belgium was going to be the second visit, but we worked it out that way because it meant that we were doing Efteling midweek and also Fantasialand for a Friday and a Saturday, so that we could at least get one day where it wasn't so busy, as well as a day off.
Yeah.
Because that was something that we needed.
Because as much as I like theme park after theme park after theme park, I get to about 3 or 4 and it's like, no, I need a rest. So we planned essentially a day off in as well. And like Dave says, the route plan went through a lot of iterations. There were a lot of parks initially on the list. I think we had about 15 initially, and we went down to sort of what we did, and yeah, that was still enough.
Following on from that, I can't remember what I was going to say now, but back to planning your route anyway. So obviously make sure you know where you're going and what you're doing. That was it. When you're planning whatever you're doing, it might be worth adding extra days off. So like for example, like I say, we did Plopsaland, then Bobbejaanland, then Efteling, then day off. It probably could have done with having another day off so we could go and see local areas and things like that a little bit, rather than just ramming it with theme parks. But that's obviously entirely up to you what it is you want. If you just want to do theme parks, just do theme parks. If you want to see local areas, add extra time in for that. So once you've done your route planning and stuff like that, things that you're going to need are travel documents, such as your travel insurance, your breakdown cover for the car.
V5, didn't you?
Yeah, you need your V5 for your car. So it's not really proof of ownership, but essentially it helps them to identify that you own that car. And other things that you need are going to be your lights. You want your beam deflectors and a UK sticker, not a GB sticker. So those are things that you can do over here before you even set off. Don't put your lights on your beam deflectors on your car until you're down at the Eurotunnel, which we'll go into in a second. But anything else?
Yeah, along with your travel insurance, which if you're planning to do more than one trip into Europe in a 90-day period, you need to be aware of this, because you cannot visit for more than 90 days in one 90-day period.
180 days.
180 day
period. Yeah, it's to do with the I can't remember
trafficking,
the name.
I think.
No, I can't remember the name of the zone, but it's like the basically it's the Eurozone. You're allowed 180 days, and within that 180 days, you can spend up to 90 days in Europe. Once your 180 days are up, you can then spend another 90 days there. So we are currently sat here in May. We've just done I think it's 8 days or something like that in Europe. In 180 days time, our allowance is allowed again, and we are planning on doing Disneyland Paris and Parc Asterix in October. So it's something we do have to be aware of. But after that, you start looking at needing visas and special permits and things like that, because obviously it's free travel at the moment. So that's the things that you can do before you even set foot in the car, I think.
And sort of on the travel insurance front as well, most multi-trip insurers, if you're going more than once, will actually work out better for you. You can get single trip cover as well, but obviously you can Google all them. We got ours through moneysupermarket.com, and it cost us both less than 20 quid each for multi-trip. So that was really, really good. The other thing that your travel insurance might not say that you will need is an EHIC card.
Let's find it later.
EHIC card. It's basically a European health card. And what this little card does, you go on the NHS website, type in for European travel. If you're going to Switzerland, it's a slightly different card. There's slightly different rules there. But basically, it covers you in the form of emergency. So potentially, if you end up in an ER and they don't speak the language, or you don't speak their language, you can give them the card. They will give you basic essentially NHS equivalent
healthcare,
healthcare
without it costing.
without it costing, and without you needing to essentially give them your travel documents if you haven't got them with you. I do recommend that you do take a printed copy of your policy, because Google Translate is wonderful and you can give them that if you need to, and they can do stuff from there, so it's not.
But definitely recommend EHIC card, European Health Insurance card. Go onto the NHS website, and you can get it all there. It does, as you were alluding to there, it does mean that you're entitled to basic healthcare in countries that have that, but it can potentially mean that you have to pay for things. However, your travel insurance should be able to reimburse you. But check your terms and conditions really briefly. All you have to do is just when you get your PDF, if you look through it, you'll look for European Health Insurance card. A lot of times it stipulates you have to have one in order for it to actually work.
Yeah.
So that's the planning stage.
Right then, so big day's arrived. You've obviously now planned your route, you've got your park tickets, you've got your hotels booked, or you've got your euros, you are ready to go. So obviously you can go, there's a few ways you can get over to the continent. One is via the Eurostar, which is the passenger equivalent of the Eurotunnel. You can fly, you can obviously go by car ferry from like Hull or various other destinations across the northeast.
As well as down south.
And down south. Yeah, or you can do what we did and do the Eurotunnel. Now, we did the Eurotunnel because it was the cheapest option
by far
for us. And it was also sort of one of the easiest. Now, understandably, if you're coming from the north of the country, you will go around the M25 one way or another. So allow yourself extra time just in case you hit an accident, you hit roadworks, or just literally the sheer volume of traffic. If you're coming from the north, you'll most likely go round the M25 orbital over the Dartford crossing, which will mean you'll go over the QE2 bridge. Now, the QE2 bridge is tolled. Gone are the days where you used to throw £2.50 in a bucket at an attendant, and it's all now done by what is called the dart charge. There are massive notice boards as you get up to it telling you what to do, but basically you just go on the government dart charge website, put in your car details, pay your £2.50 I think it was for a car, literally over on the website. It's all done and dusted, and that's it. And
to put it into context, by the time that I'd got onto the bridge and driven over it, Tracy paid it. So,
yes, yeah, it's that simple, and you've got up to 24 hours to pay that dart charge. So if for some reason you don't have internet, as long as you've paid it within the 24 hours, you'll be fine. Otherwise, you'll be coming home to a fine.
Yeah, exactly, which you don't want. So you've got on the M25. You've managed to get all the way down there. First thing I would advise, which we've not got written down here, though, is potentially stop at the services. What was it? Stop24.
Yeah, Stop24. There's
just before you get into the Eurotunnel, because they seem to have got a lot more of a wide range of variety of foods and things like that. If you want somewhere to stop. But when you get to the Eurotunnel, there's not quite as many food options in there, but we'll go on to the Eurotunnel in a second. Once you do get to the Eurotunnel, you'll come up to a barrier, and there's a camera pointing at the car. It's your ANPR camera. It registers your registration plate, and then it comes up on the screen next to you with your details. So it said, "Welcome, Mr. Rowe," and asked me if I'd got any pets in the car, and also what kind of fuel the car was running on, whether it was diesel or petrol, conventional, electric or LPG. Obviously mine's diesel, so I just press that one. I don't know quite why they ask those questions, but anyway, just do that. Those are the two questions that they ask. Make sure you confirm everything. Press the confirm button on the screen, and then it prints out a little hanger. And
this is after asking you to confirm what time train you'd like to go on, because initially we were booked in for 6:20.
Yep.
But because we got there early, we got the option to go on an earlier train. Now that only happens if they have space available for you to do that. So you can pick an extra time, or a different time, sorry. If there's a cost involved, it will tell you that on that screen, and you can stick to your own time that you've booked in for if you want.
Both times that we've done it, 'cause obviously we came back, we didn't go on the train that we'd booked in for, and it didn't cost us anything, which is separate. So when you book your train crossing, because I did this, you didn't, if you book between, say for example, midnight and 2 o'clock, you've got three options there: midnight, 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock. it's very similar to that. However, you don't on the screen. You're probably not going to get charged for it, assuming that there's space. So as you said, we got down there for 4:20, which meant there was a 5:20 train, 6:20 train. The 6:20 train was the one we were getting on, but because we were early, we could get on the 5:20. Which once we got into there, we'd picked the 5:20 train because it got us into Europe a bit earlier. It meant that we had less time in duty free and such, but we didn't really need it.
No. Duty free this side is literally, it's quite a tiny duty free. There's a restaurant and I think a Costa and a WH Smith in there, and obviously the toilets, and that is basically it. So if you've got little ones with you, be aware that if you're waiting for a couple of hours, you will need to keep them entertained.
Yeah, there's nothing there. I mean, there is a little bit of information on how the French and British came together to actually build the Eurotunnel, which is quite interesting. Now, I've not seen anything about on any of the videos I'd watched, which was quite interesting, but there's only so much you can do with a couple of displays.
So once you've done in the loos and the duty free, and
before we just go on to that, sorry, on duty free, if you do buy anything from duty free, the lead passenger, which was me, I've got a QR code, which meant that I could use my allowance and such. So was it like 200 cigarettes and however much beer and stuff like that, but I would be the only one who would be allowed to buy from the duty free. However, Tracy can do that if I invite her to my
share your QR code.
Share my QR code, part of my group. It's really dead simple to do. On your email, there'll be an option to do that when you book your shuttle ticket. So if anybody wants to buy their allowance of stuff, whether it's cigarettes, alcohol, electronics and stuff, they'll need their own QR code, otherwise it'll be split between the amount of people in the car. So it was 2 for us, but if you've got 4 people, it'll be split between 4, so let's bear that one in mind. But once we're done in duty free...
Righty people, bit windy out here today, but this is our UK sticker. Once done in duty free, obviously left there are signs up all over the place that correspond to the number that is on your hanger that you get given when you initially check in.
But you'd start by following the France roads, which was weird.
Yeah, you start off by following the road with the arrow that says French or France.
Yeah.
In boarding.
I didn't quite get that, but that takes you essentially straight to passport control, and I can't remember which way around it was, whether it was a UK one or the French one.
First.
UK passport control, and what will happen there is that's the point where they'll take your passports off you. And there's only the 2 of us in the car. However, I imagine if there's 4 people in the car, got 2 people in the back seat, they'll want to see what the people in the back seat look like. So you've got to obviously make sure that you match up with the person that's on your passport, which was dead simple for us. But that's the point where we asked if there was anything to declare and whatnot, wasn't it? And then moved on to French passport control, didn't we?
Yeah, so you do English border control, and then literally 20 metres down the road you'll do French border control, which is where you get your stamps. Now, be aware, if you're in a bigger car, a van, a camper van, or you're potentially a biker, you might get asked to pull over to the left so they can do a security check. They don't do it with every car. We didn't get checked, but there were essentially 4 or 5 camper vans in front of us.
Yeah.
Most of them did get checked.
Just on that, that's what we're going off. It's not necessarily gospel. When we were there for going there and coming back, camper vans were being checked and so motorcycles, but we didn't see any cars being checked. But based on that, if you're worried that you are going to get checked or anything like that, it's a genuine worry that I had, make sure that you've got ample room in the car so that you can move your stuff when they do check. Because I've never done it, but I'm going to assume it's exactly the same as they do in an airport, where they take everything out of your suitcase and go through it all, and you have to put it all back. If your suitcase is rammed, it's going to be quite difficult to get it all back in, because you don't want to miss your train, because you're going to be under a sort of a time budget. So make sure you've got ample room in the car to take everything out and then put it all back nice and quick, and then you can get back onto your train. As for getting onto your train, once you've done your French passport control and you've got your stamps in your passport, you'll be then assigned a lane. I think there was 3 for our train, wasn't there?
You get told sort of there are electronic boards on this side which will correspond once again to that number on your hanger, which will tell you where you need to go. It's all dead simple. It's insane how simple it really is.
The UK side was unbelievably easy.
And
you'd be a fool to make a mistake there, because you can't go anywhere wrong.
No, and it's all on a one-way system, so you can't really reverse or do anything wrong. You keep going the way you need to keep going. But yeah, you pull up to the queue, and then you literally just wait for your lane to go green, follow the signs, follow the people in the flashy coats, and you are literally straight on and straight down. And then when you get to the train itself, you will either be on a top deck or a bottom deck.
Obviously the flow of traffic will lead you there, but we were finding that it was like 3 cars bottom, 3 cars top. We managed to get a top deck, which I wanted a top deck. I don't know, it's almost like being on a bus, despite the fact that you can't see anything. So when you get there, massive barn doors, and they are quite big. They could be a bit tight if you've got a really sort of wide car or a particularly expensive one and you're worried about getting too close, but I've got an Mazda estate, and it had no problem getting in there at all. Just take your time, follow the cars up the ramp, and what you'll find is roughly sort of work out in your head 4 cars in front. That's when my carriage could end, because what they'll do is in each carriage they can have up to 4 cars by the looks of it. Sometimes it's 3, but most of the times it's 4. And essentially don't move any further forward until you know you've got space to move. So if you can see that there's a roller blind come down and there's 3 cars already in front of you and you can fit, move into the next carriage, your car will be sat there. They won't have a problem with that. If staff need you to move, they'll obviously direct you, but it was dead simple getting onto the train. And then when we were on the train, you get announcements. You've got to keep your windows open just for ventilation and things like that. You are allowed out of your car, which seems really weird because everyone sits in the car all sort of, "Whoa!" But yeah, you can get out of your car. I did, because I wanted to take photos of the car and the train because it was all exciting. And there are toilets on the train, but neither of us used those, did we?
No. Bear in mind though, you might be in a carriage like on a conventional train where the toilets are potentially 3 or 4 carriages away, so if you've got little children with you, probably a best idea to accompany them to the loo.
It will tell you as well to not walk between the vehicles, and that's obviously if anything happens with the train, they need to brake heavily, the cars might slide and obviously get crushed there, sort of thing. So just avoid doing that. But other than that, that's getting down to the Eurotunnel and actually crossing over into France.
Yep.
So you've got down to the train. You've driven under the sea, which is peculiar for you. And then when you get to the other side, there'll be an announcement to say that you're pulling up soon, and the train will stop. But then they won't start unloading immediately because they've got safety checks and things like that to do. But getting off, really simple, exactly the same as getting on. You just follow the car in front. If you're at the front of the queue, you'll get sort of signposted as to where you go. Off the train, and then you're into France. And all you do is you just follow the road as to where you're going. And when we did it, I'm sure it'll be the same no matter when you go, but it essentially filters you straight onto a motorway, which can be a bit daunting. I didn't realise that myself. I thought it would have been onto sort of French sort of normal roads as opposed to motorways, but no, straight onto a motorway. All you do with that one is you just filter straight to the left as opposed to filtering right like you would on our motorways. Once you're on there, if you've got a long way to go, just go. Take your time to acclimatise yourself to driving on the wrong side of the road. Don't worry about getting too fast or anything like that. Just stay in your lane and just get used to it. However, we didn't. we were at a place called, I think it's Coquelles, which is like a suburb of Calais. It's only a 10-minute drive to the hotel from where we were, which was the F1 hotel. So I was straight onto a motorway. Hey, I'm on a motorway, and I'm straight off a motorway and onto roundabouts and things like that. French roundabouts are a sort of an experience because you go around them the wrong way. You'll also look the wrong way. In the UK, you look to the right. Car's not coming, off you go. It's not to the left, which is a bit weird. But the way that I sort of got around it was because I instinctively was looking right. Tracy was always looking left anyway, so we'd just look out for each other. So when you're over there, if you're having a bit of sort of an issue with it, just make sure that everyone in the car is looking around to make sure that you're safe. Just take your time with things. When you do come onto motorways, you'll probably find that the European drivers, this is not necessarily a French thing or a Belgian thing, it's just Europe in general, that they don't give way. I don't know whether it's they're not allowed to or anything like that, but over here, if someone's coming to join the motorway, you'll pull into the right-hand lane, they'll come on, and then carry on from there. In Europe, they don't do that. If you come up to the side of a car on the left, you'll be expected to brake and pull in behind them or get in front of them, however you want to do it. So just do be aware of that one. Brush up on continental road signs, because there's quite a few of them that are a bit sort of weird. Like there's a 6 prongs one, which means black ice, and that seemed to be everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. There are a few different road signs. There are a few similar ones, but have slightly different meaning to the UK ones as well.
Obviously, the speed ones are like the same, but the speed ones are in kilometres, not miles.
Yeah, your speed here is in kilometres. Now, a lot of modern cars do have the kilometres on them, but they are underneath the miles per hour, and they are tiny. So just be aware of that. Other thing is with that is you will notice, especially in France, that your kilometres drop very, very quick in short spaces of time. Like you'll go from 90 down to 70 in literally a 50-metre sort of stretch. And then what you might find is then they go back up past the junction. So be careful of that, and they slow down rapidly when you come off the junctions as well, with not too much time to actually slow down.
It is quite peculiar, is that one. And I was using Google Maps quite a lot, because Google Maps tells you what the speed limit of the road is, which, just before I do go on to that, turn speed camera notifications off while you're driving in France, because it's illegal and you will get a ridiculous fine if you're caught doing so. However, I don't think there's anything wrong with Google Maps telling you what the speed of the road is. It just can't tell you where the cameras are. Anyway, so yeah, I was following that because my car, it's a bit of a design fault from Mazda here. When the needle is up, the needle is quite big, that sometimes it can cover like the 50, 55 sort of area of kilometres. So I was reading that, but I was also checking what speed I was doing on Google Maps as well, because it obviously does it by satellite. So do keep an eye on your speed. If needs be, just drive a bit slower than you would over here. A lot of motorways tend to be 130 kilometres, but you won't see signs that'll tell you. I think it's the same over here though, because I've never really noticed, but when you get on a motorway, you just do 17, off you go. If you need to do any other speed, the overhead signs will tell you. In France, Belgium, and Germany as well, it was the same sort of thing. There was nothing to tell you what the speed limit was, unless the speed limit had changed to something other than normal. So, like I say, stick to sort of 60, 70 miles an hour. You shouldn't have any problems. But following on from that, a lot of Belgian roads have speed cameras on them at junctions. So if you'll find that you'll be coming on what looks like a motorway, 3 lanes sort of thing, but then there'll be a sign to tell you that there's traffic lights coming up that you can already see anyway. Then there's traffic lights, and at those traffic lights there will be a speed camera. It's like a big grey box, so don't fly through those. You shouldn't be anyway, because obviously safety and whatnot, but I was quite tentative going through them, because I didn't know what the speed limit was a lot of the time, because there's usually only one sign and that's it, but I just sort of dawdled and did everything like that. And because of that, plan extra time for your journeys. It was taking us a lot longer than it should have done, because I wasn't pushing the boundaries of speed or anything like that, and there was times when I was making mistakes. Not dangerous or anything like that, but the sign would say I need to come off at like A304 or something like that, and I would follow what I thought was a 304, but it wasn't, and I'll explain that a little bit more. When you come off a UK junction, you will find that you come off and then you're off onto a slip road. It either goes over the motorway or under the motorway, or however it does it. In France, Belgium, etc., it's not quite the same. You'll find that you'll be coming off the motorway as another car is joining you on the other side, and chances are you'll need to swap over. So one of you will have to move out of the way while that car joins the motorway and you're coming off. But failing that, there's also the option that that car wants to go the same way as you, because they seem to use motorway junctions as regular junctions as well. Over in the UK, you'll come off, you'll be a roundabout, and you'll go on to different parts. They don't have that in Europe, so do bear that one in mind. They do have quite a lot of signposts on the above the road and on the road as well. So just make sure that you've got an idea of where you're going before you go there. Other than that, the only thing to mention with regards to roads is Autobahns, because we did a bit in Germany, and it was something I was a little bit excited for, to be honest, because I'm not normally a speed demon or anything like that, but the fact that Germany allows you to do it, I wanted to have a go at, going a bit faster in the car. And it was, I think it was the A20 or something like that. Either way, it was the road that goes basically from Toverland to Phantasialand, and that parts of it are unrestricted. And when you're on an autobahn, the unrestricted part will be like our national speed limit signs, but instead of being solid black, there'll be 4 black lines that go through it. That also accounts for, if it says, for example, 100 kilometres and there's 4 lines going through it, that means that the 100 kilometre speed no longer applies, and you can go as fast as you like. When you're on autobahns, take your time with them. Once we got to an autobahn, I've been driving in Europe for about 4 or 5 days, so I was quite used to motorways and stuff like that now. But if you do go straight to Germany, don't gun it straight away, because you'll find that there'll be all sorts in the outside lane coming past you. You know, you'll be doing 100 miles an hour and they're still coming past you. Keep away from those. Let them go. If you're then going to put your foot down, then go. But you'll find that there'll be some swine that pulls out because they need to do 85 miles an hour around the guy doing 70 and you're doing 150. So just take your time with it.
Yeah, we did come across a couple of more aggressive sort of obviously locals on the Autobahn, but be aware that not all the Autobahn is restricted as well. Unrestricted.
Yeah. That one is entirely up to you to decide if you're going on unrestricted or not. But the road that goes, I think it's to and from Phantasialand near Brühl, is unrestricted. I'm sure it's the A21, but look it up for yourself. There's a website that's got a map of them all, if it's something that you want to do, and it is quite good fun actually. The Autobahn works really well. It's just like you say, when you've got idiots over here that are doing 60 in the middle lane, you get them on the Autobahn as well, and they'll pull out and whatnot, so just be aware of that.
Yeah, another thing sort of on sort of general driving when you're off the motorways, what you will find coming up to a lot of the roundabouts is the lanes are clearly marked by essentially a series of raised bricks. They're like a little hump as you go around.
Some of the roundabouts have got lanes.
Yeah.
So for example, if you're wanting to go straight across, you'll find that you'll be in the left-hand lane, despite the fact that your roundabout's got like sort of 4 exits. Yours, the right-hand lane across, and the left-hand one. Yeah, there'll be little raised brick sections that allow you to go straight across, so it essentially turns the roundabout into sort of its own lane.
Yeah.
But if just be aware of them.
Yeah, so that's a little bit weird. Also, if you're in France, traffic lights only do red and then green.
Yeah,
they
there's no
miss
yellow.
Amber entirely. So be aware for that. You can occasionally turn right on a red signal as well. I think it was right.
I've not. Just keep an eye on the line. It's not like America in that if it's red you can turn right, but there are the lanes will be allowed to go in different orders. It's bizarre, but Germany is pretty much identical to how the UK works. You've got red, yellow, green, and like I say, the speed limits and whatnot. It's all over. Germany is wonderful to drive in. Netherlands, not so much. It's a bit weird.
Say the only other major issue we come across was occasionally there were a couple of junctions where we would be coming out of the junction to essentially go across 2, maybe 3 lanes of traffic at a big junction, turning left, and you'd get people turning right, essentially looking like they're oncoming traffic into you, but they're going the other side of you on the junction.
Yeah.
So that's a bit weird as well.
Yeah, there was one. I remember it was a white BMW. I pulled out. I was turning left, and he was coming straight across, I think, or turning left as well. And I just had to apologise because it was my fault. But just be aware when you come up to junctions and things like priority might be a bit different.
Yeah. That said, though, if you've got English plates on your car, the majority of European people do look at the car's number plates, and they do tend to sit there and realise and back off a bit, and they're not as aggressive or potentially as what people may think.
Yeah,
we had no issues, and they gave you time. They gave a bit of patience as well.
Yeah.
So
we can't carry fault on that.
Yeah.
Finally, borders. I was expecting that there might be some form of issue when it comes from driving between like France and Belgium. So that's the reason why I stopped in a hotel after we'd done the Eurotunnel. So we got to the hotel at about 8 o'clock or something like that. I could have quite easily driven straight to Plopsaland, because I didn't realise that it's like driving between England and Wales.
Yeah.
There is nothing there apart from usually a piddly little sign.
And even then it's not a noticeable sign, really.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we did really want to do, and we got the vast majority of them, was stop at these signs to take photos like, oh yeah, here we are at the crossing between France and Belgium. And we got most of them. I don't think we got the Germany one.
Yes, be aware that most of these signs are on motorways, and it's not the easiest to do. So if you Google Maps where the sign is and you know it's coming up, have someone with a camera ready in your car as you kind of go past, because it's not ideal to stop.
Yeah, you shouldn't be stopping on the motorways, but I did find that there was quite a few A roads that or what we'd call A roads, that that had those borders on, and you could do them like that sort of truck stop that we had between Netherlands and Belgium. Really good location, because you could get two. Only the Belgian one wasn't Belgium; it was Flanders.
Yeah.
So, but that's driving in Europe. It does take some getting used to, but it's not sort of too difficult.
Yeah.
So yeah, and we drove the vast majority of the time in the day, so we didn't need to worry about headlights or anything like that.
Yeah.
So that's that. So now you're crossing Europe and you've got used to driving a little bit.
Hopefully you've done 1 or 2 parks by now as well.
Yes. While you're in Europe, one of the things that you will probably need is bottled water. Now, we didn't run the risk. I can go from Wakefield down to Southampton, and I can get the runs with Southampton water. So I don't want the risk of having sort of European water in that. So we took bottled water. It seems to be that Europeans also do the same thing with that as well. Their bottled water sections of their supermarkets are massive, and it's not like they're massive and they don't use them. There's lots of bottles of water missing, so they must be buying them. And on that, in the supermarkets, you'll probably find that they don't do milk like we do. So over here, there's a milk aisle, it's all in the fridge and such. Not so much in the ones that we went to. We visited 3 supermarkets, and every time the milk was on the shelf.
A lot of it on the continent is UHT long life milk.
Yeah.
Now whether they do this for preservation, we're not too sure, but be aware of that one. And if you're not a fan of UHT milk, then you're not going to have a cup of tea for the duration that you were in the continent.
Yes, and on that, I was sort of going to be under the impression that it was going to be difficult to find tea and such like that. It's not. You can find tea bags and stuff like that in the supermarkets as you would over here, but there is a lot more coffee than there is tea. A lot of the hotels that we went to didn't have tea and coffee making facilities, so it might be worthwhile you taking a travel kettle, because you can bring coffee creamer or coffee whitener, and just live off it like that. But when it comes to paying for things, a lot of places do still take card and cash. It's not like the Merlin parks, for example, over here, where you have to use card. We found actually that Phantasialand was worse for card than it was for cash, despite the fact that I was sort of adamant that I'll do everything on card.
And I took completely cash me.
Yeah,
because I'm old school.
Tracy went completely cash. I went completely card. The way that I sort of saw it was, if I can't pay for something on card, I can just go and withdraw cash. But one of the other parks, Bobajan Land, they didn't take as much cash. So when we got to Bobajan Land, they allowed you to turn cash into one of their sort of essentially, was it Bobby money?
Yeah.
It was essentially their own currency. So it was kind of fine like that. But yeah, it's probably worthwhile taking a mix of both cash and card. I just figured that after COVID, everything had gone cashless. Having a basic understanding of French, German, or Dutch is going to be advantageous. We found that while we were in France, we didn't have any problems. We didn't have many problems in Germany either. But Belgium
and the Netherlands on occasion.
Netherlands weren't too bad, but Belgium, sometimes you'll come up to to order your food or something like that, and they will ask you something, and you're not sure whether it's French, German or Dutch. And it seemed to be Plopsland was primarily French, but Wallaby Belgium seemed to be more Dutch and German, I think. Whereas Germany was German. There was no you got options in German and nothing else basically. But
we must say on that in all of the parks, Efteling, Phantasialand, they both had guides in Dutch, English, Belgium, French, pretty much every language you could want. And the majority of their staff were sort of multilingual as well. So even if you don't have a basic knowledge, you can get through it. But having that basic knowledge will help you. Bobajan Land, Plopsaland, we could have done with a bit more of the language there, and Wallaby Belgium as well. We come across a couple of issues there, but it was nothing major, and we managed to sort it and get through what we wanted and what they wanted and what we both understood.
Yeah, I think the worst thing, it's not really the worst thing, but is that when we were at the Efteling Hotel for the evening meal that we were having, I couldn't say no onions. and they didn't understand it. But that is my fault. Once again, I've said it multiple times. There's nothing wrong with the fact that they don't speak English. It's more the fact that we don't speak their language.
Yeah. it would be sort of something to note here. If you've got allergies, if you've got gluten intolerances, anything like that, figure out what that phrase is in German, French or Dutch, because they're the phrases you're going to need. And obviously if you've got an allergy or anything, learn that phrase, and then at least
it'll save you a little bit of hassle.
It's going to save you a little bit of hassle. Yeah.
But following on from that, you can use Google Translate, which leads in nicely to the final point that we've got to make about mobile data. Make sure that your provider allows you to use mobile data or anything like that abroad. So you're with ID
Mobile,
and you can use your entire allowance abroad, whereas I'm with O2 and I could use 25 gigabytes. I think it's 25 gigabytes a month of my allowance. I'm unlimited data. It'd been nice to use it, but I didn't use all that much while I was over there. And
yeah, that's the other thing. The continent is very, very well connected for Wi-Fi and internet.
Mobile data is incredible over there.
Yeah.
There was, I think, twice where I dropped down from 5G to I think it was either H+ or E. And one of those, I was in the basement of a hotel sort of thing, so you'd expect it to be like that. Yeah, it was incredibly well connected. We never had problems at all with needing to know something, or like, a lot of the time using Google Translate to get us by. Because onto Google Translate, Google Translate allows you to use what's called Google Lens. These things might be worth setting up before you go, but what it'll do is essentially you can either take a photograph or you can use your camera to translate words on the go. So say you've got instructions about like boarding procedure on a roller coaster or something like that. You can have Google Lens up on your phone and it will tell you, usually in broken English because it doesn't translate that well, but you can understand what it is that it's trying to tell you. So it means that you're never going to be without that, but you do need internet access to be able to use something like that because it's kind of a live service. And on from Google Translate, download the languages as well. You're going to want whatever country you go into, but we needed Dutch, French and German. So it meant that if we did need to translate something in a spotty signal area, the language was there for us.
Yeah, and also on that, be aware that when you're in Germany, a lot of Google Maps isn't on Google Maps. You'll have the main
Street View, which means it's Street View, yeah.
Street View, yeah. You'll have the main roads, but that's pretty much it in Germany.
If you even get that, we found that if to be fair, if you go on Google Maps, you can see that Germany is essentially a sort of a black spot. Not entirely sure whether it's something to do with their privacy laws or anything like that, but yeah, if you're wanting to find something like when I do like find car parks and stuff like that, I Street View things. And the Phantasialand car park, I couldn't see it on Google Maps, so I was going to try and look for it using Street View, and you can't. It's dead easy to find because it's literally right across from the Charles Lindbergh where we stopped. But the main car park I think is out the back, and you wouldn't be able to find that using Street View because it's just not there. But other than that, I think that is pretty much like sort of an idiot's guide to Europe, if you will. We went into it completely blind, and it was relatively quite painless. Once we'd got through the arguing of which hotels were stopping and what parks we were going to, the actual physical driving down on the Friday morning to getting back, a week and a bit later on the Wednesday night, we had very little problems at all.
Yeah, I think our biggest one was that every supermarket over there is not a hypermarket, which is something else to be aware of, and it's great wandering around a hypermarket for tea. There are a lot of differences between the UK and the continent, and like us, you will walk into hypermarkets and supermarkets and go, yeah, we are getting stiffed on things.
And on that as well, the European counterparts don't stay open as long. So, for example, we were intending to go to a hypermarket on one of the nights or something like that after a park, only to find that despite the fact the park was open until 6 o'clock, the hypermarket closed 6 hours ago.
And be aware that with a lot of the hypermarkets, they're either not open on Sundays or they're only open limited hours, like 10 till 2. They're not same conventional hours as what we figured they might be. So that was a bit of a learning curve.
It just lends into the thing that if you skip through the entire video and just get to this point, Make sure that your car's got everything in it you could possibly need for breakdowns and safety. Make sure that you're bringing bottles of water. Make sure you've got lots of room in the car should the authorities need to check. Download all the data that you could possibly need beforehand, and also plan. Make sure that you're checking opening times for absolutely everything, so that you're not left high and dry. We managed absolutely fine, and like I say, we'd never done anything like this before, so there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to as well. And it was a good lot of fun. That's the most important part. If anything goes wrong or like that, try not to focus on the negatives. Focus on the positives. You're in a foreign country. It was wonderful.
Yeah. Exactly,
Cannot recommend doing a European road trip enough.
Yep.
But yeah, like I say, make sure you've got everything you could possibly need with you. Better to have it and not need it. And finally, one of the things that you can't get over there, you can't get Amazon Prime deliveries.
No.
It's just all I lost a lens cap for my camera, and I was intending to get a lens cap delivered to a local locker, and you can't do that. You can't get delivered out of the UK, which was sort of a bit of an eye opener. But yeah, I think that's everything for our guide. If you do have any questions or anything like that, specifically driving messages and things like that, we have no problems. Either put it in the comments down below or send us a message to loopsandlapbars@gmail.com. And by all means, I'll help out as best I can.
Exactly, yeah, we'll do our best to answer.
Yeah, because it's if you're worried about the slightest little thing, I don't really want to go to Europe because of this, that, and the other. Don't let the worries worry you. Get somebody to answer it, whether it's me, whether it's anybody else, or anything like that, and get those worries aside and get over there and get it done. So that's us for today.
It is.
Goodbye. Bye-bye.